Discussions like we always do it here on Good Morning Uganda. We do this every morning from Monday to Friday, 6:30 to 9 a.m. So never ever miss Good Morning Uganda. And if you cannot watch us live on UBC, you can actually stream on YouTube so that you don't miss anything. And if there is any episode that you missed, you can catch it on YouTube. Good morning, Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you, and hoping you're fine.
I am great.
The weekend was very, very good because I had a time to be in the presence of the Lord.
Oh.
Yes. At Life Church Namasuba, my church, and it felt so good being in the presence of the Lord, and of course meeting brothers and sisters in Christ and sharing a lot. But one thing I've noticed is we've gone so much into politics that those days you'd meet and talk about the rain and talk about children and talk about this. But this time round, every time you meet people, the first thing, if it's not the hard economic times,
it's politics.
It's politics. If I'm parliament, I'm doing the video. I'm like, well, what happened to that conversation?
But you see, politics shapes the lives that we have as Ugandans. And actually, I like that the church is very vocal about the politics of the country, because if the church is quiet, then politicians, you've seen what has been happening in parliament, people acting rowdy, acting like little rascals. The church helps us to, remember where we come from.
Not forgetting the politics of the church itself. When you look at what is happening at Namirembe Cathedral, where we even have to set up an entire committee, then probe committee, these days getting a bishop has also become something else,
I understand. Well, Jerome Paul, it is a chilly morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
I'm also all right.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. Pretty much okay, I should say. First and foremost, let me just throw back to Friday, from the startup of Friday. I love the fact that Ugandans are paying attention or supporting Ugandan music. Friday, I was following up the updates of the Azawi concert on social media, and I was really happy because I realized Ugandans stand up in huge numbers to support a female musician, Azawi. I think she's quite different from the kind of musicians doing the type of music she does, that she doesn't have to strip naked or half naked for us to appreciate her music. And when you look at the talent she has got, the type of music, the audience, she knows what she's doing. But besides that, the weekend was a good one as well. However much it has actually ended, and a new week has started with some huge rainfalls.
Yes.
But that's also a sign of a blessing in the African perspective or narrative, that this week is going to be a good one. So a good morning to all the Ugandans out there who are watching, and more so the Chelsea fans, just like Chantal Oliver Kandinda. They had the chance to defeat Arsenal on Saturday.
Oh, I like that you decided to talk about it before Chantal.
And they still failed. But anyway, nonetheless, it's definitely a new week with fresh energy, and we're definitely here to make sure that you, a Ugandan, are inspired.
Well, we are here to inspire you. That's our mandate as the national broadcaster. Good morning, Chantal.
Oh, now I can hear. Good morning, Olive. How are you? I kind of lost the song called somewhere when he was speaking, but now I can hear.
You decided to pick what
I made a deliberate decision not to hear what he was saying.
I'm telling you guys, sports, there is the emotion that goes into sports that I don't really understand.
I sent him a message midway the game when we still had 2 goals. I'm like, are you well? He waited for the match to end. He's like, I'm very well.
Oh, wow. How convenient.
But good morning, Ugandans. I hope you are having a lovely morning. It's chilly. Please do carry something warm for yourself, and take some tea instead of doing other things that are going to lead you into more trouble. Coffee, support Ugandan coffee, yes, just like Chirabo usually says and does. So please make sure that you are warm. We are still in the rainy season. Carry your jumper, your jacket, your coat, anything that is going to keep you warm. Welcome to the show.
And speaking matters, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania received over $45 million in grants. And this money is meant for the new for the research for a vaccine for HIV. Yes, you had that right. We are in the works of trying. These countries are supposed to pool knowledge and work on this project for the next 5 years so that they come up with a vaccine for HIV. And they are looking at having a vaccine that has 60 to 80% efficacy. And personally, seeing where we have come as a country and also as a continent regarding the fight against HIV/AIDS, this gives me so much hope. But there was a conversation that was happening off air with my colleagues where they wondered if the development of a vaccine for HIV might do more harm than good. Chiramo.
Well, first we want to thank the UNAIDS and the government of the United States of America for providing $48 million US dollars. That is about 160 billion, and to a consortium of about 8 countries led by South Africa. Now, these countries are supposed to develop an HIV vaccine, and what this could mean, therefore, is one, we won't have, if people are immune to HIV/AIDS,
yes,
that means we've been having issues of death, we have been having a lot of money injected, spent on HIV/AIDS, that will be gone. But also, this may, in the other way, promote a bit of loose life in one way or the other. Because,
you mean promiscuity?
Because now people, you see, have found solutions to pregnancy. That was the #1 fear. And now a young girl will tell you, pregnancy, that is not a problem. Any woman knows, because you have various methods of family planning.
That's
Even
true.
you have emergency contraceptives. So that wouldn't be a problem. Now, the other problem has been HIV. Because these other infections are treatable,
Yes.
you know, and manageable. But now, the king of them has been HIV. Now, if someone took that vaccine and they're sure they're not going to contract HIV, they're sure they're not going to have further children outside marriage, then we may go back to the olden days where we had people mingle everywhere now and there. It's a step in the right direction, but in terms of morals, we need to go more so the young that come with a lot of excitement.
I think there the onus is on us, the parents and the guardians that are raising the young generation, to counsel them into being morally upright. But as far as the HIV vaccine is concerned, like you said, I believe this is a step in the right direction, isn't so, Jerome Paul?
Yes, it is. There's a step in the right direction, simply because you can look at the developments coming in from the health sector, more so that Ugandans themselves, or our scientists, are also joining the cause. It will be a big kind of achievement from that sector if we are able to create this vaccine. But also on the other side, as Chirabo did mention, that it will actually bring back you know, the element of sexual indiscipline amongst the young people, because they will definitely know the biggest barrier, that was HIV, is actually being, you know what, carried off. But then when it comes to sexual situations, I want to believe it's all about individual discipline and all that, because even currently, as there is HIV and all that, people are still going on doing or living a reckless sex life. So I think it is personal discipline to curb that. But when you come to look at it from the angle of Uganda's health sector, it's a very huge sign of achievement. If at all we pull it off and get this particular vaccine done and manufactured right from Uganda as well, then we'll definitely be happy. And everybody in the health sector will actually, you know, have laid a finger or two on this particular success. So I want to believe that it's some huge developing report, and obviously a good sign as we're heading into 2024, maybe, or maybe not. But maybe it will definitely be a game changer for Uganda's health sector.
It will definitely be a game changer. Oh, I believe so. Chantal, do you have the same sentiments regarding the HIV vaccine that is supposed to be made by countries like Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, among others?
I'm choosing to look at it from the angle of development, the angle of growth and finding solutions to some of the problems that are affecting very many countries, by the way, not just in Africa. What Chirabo said about, you know, it could in a way promote maybe people being reckless and stuff like that. Before we even talk about that, do you know that as of 2022, South Africa had 7.5 million people suffering from HIV. Mozambique had 2.2 million, Nigeria 1.8 million. So what am I trying to say? At the end of the day, whether we develop the vaccine or not, like we said, it goes back down to us as individuals to make sure that we protect ourselves. And mind you, it's not just HIV that is spread, the same way. No, we have chlamydia, we have gonorrhea, and all these gross diseases, by the way, that are sexually transmitted that people should actually care about. So I believe it's a good step in the right direction for us as Africans and the world as a whole. And it goes back down to us as individuals to take care of our health in the best way we can.
And also it's important to note that we have over 1.4 million people living with HIV/AIDS in Uganda. Now, we also know that some development partners have already pulled out of the HIV fight response. So it is incumbent upon us to actually be proper, live morally upright lives, because the medicines that we have are enough for the 1.4 million people that are already living with HIV or that are living positively. So if you're not part of that, please do not add yourself on that number, because if you constrain and if the numbers grow, the government is going to be constrained, and guess what? We can reach a point where we cannot fight this thing anymore. Yet we have done so much. We've come a long way in the fight against HIV/AIDS, and I never knew that we'd see a day where someone can live positively and live a normal life with HIV/AIDS. So I give it up to the government and all these development agencies that have helped in the fight against HIV/AIDS. But right about now, we move on and share some of the local stories that we've managed to gather for you this morning.
Well, let's begin with the Prime Minister, who has asked the people of Bukoma, Simbi and Kalungu to embrace government programs. Now, Prime Minister Rob Banja said that these people should embrace these programs that will avail them value for money. The Prime Minister was addressing leaders from the two districts as she mobilized them for the forthcoming Agriculture Expo. Prime Minister Rob Banja was in the district of Bukoma, Nsimi and Kalungu and Zimbabwe to explain to farmers the 6 policy proposal of production, multiplication, distribution and certification of seeds and livestocking materials, disease control, agricultural mechanization and irrigation, and farmer education, among others, which she said if these are applied very well, big landowners and having right interventions, this will earn them money.
Moving on, the Bishop of Namirembe Diocese, the Reverend Wilberforce Chitio Luarira, has expressed concern over the ongoing falsehoods about the diocese as it awaits to elect his successor. Luarira communicated this during a Thanksgiving service as he awaits to retire from service as bishop. The Thanksgiving service was held at St. Paul's Cathedral, Namirembe. Luarira, who has been the bishop of the Namirembe Diocese for 14 years, says it was God who enabled him to serve. He, however, expressed concern over falsehoods spreading all over social media and in some mainstream media about the selection of his successor. The guest preacher emeritus Central Uganda Bishop Jackson Matovo applauded Bishop Luarira for his service and the innovations at Namirembe Cathedral that include the church's renovation. He asked Christians to remain calm and firm as they wait for the selection of the incoming bishop. Other people spoke highly about Bishop Luarira's service during his tenure. Since its establishment in 1960, Namirembe Diocese has had 5 bishops, the first bishop being Leslie Brown, who served a 5-year tenure, Dunstan Subuga, who served for a decade, Bishop Kauma, who served for 9 years, and the recent Bishop Wilberforce Luwarira, who has served for a period of 14 years.
And moving on, the Bishop of Bunyoro Chitara Diocese, Right Reverend Samuel Kahuma, has opposed the creation of Kachepini Healing City based on religious differences, denouncing hypocrisy and corrupt tendencies of some political leaders. In a joint prayer held at St. Mary's Kagadi Catholic Parish, Monsignor Peter Kaberenge, the Episcopal Vicar of Kagadi, castigated leaders who fuel tribal and religious divisions, saying Kagadi is developing rapidly and does not need counterproductive tendencies. The chairperson, Interreligious Council Kagadi, Pastor Magezi Ibrahim, and Sheikh Isingoma Mohammed, the Kabale District Qadi, on behalf of Kagadi and the entire Bunyoro residents, pinned the Kagadi District LC5 chairperson for fueling corruption in the district. However, Ndibwami Yosia denied all allegations as false, saying he met the Minister for Local Government seeking audience and that the council and the executive has not yet passed a resolution of creating Kapienin Healing City.
And lastly, in the stories on our local scene, elders in Moroto district say the election of Karamoja King last Thursday was null and void as many tribes in the region were not consulted. On Friday last week, 25 cultural leaders from the 9 districts of Karamoja sat and elected Peter Adey of Nyakawe of Ambim as the first king of Karamoja. This has created mixed reaction among elders, as many say Karamoja does not need a king, while others support it but want it to be properly conducted.
Away from that, let's cross over and see what is happening on the international scene now. 30 bodies, most of them women and children, have been recovered from underneath the ruins of bombed buildings in Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp, the Civil Defense Unit told news agencies. Gaza's Ministry of Interior said there were many casualties following an Israeli air attack late on Sunday on a residential building in the largest of 8 refugee camps in the Strip. At least 27 people were also injured, with hospitals saying they are struggling to treat the wounded. We are suffering from an acute shortage of medicines and medical equipment, the director of the Indonesian hospital in North Gaza told a news agency. Israel has continued to bomb the Gaza Strip for more than 2 weeks in response to an incursion by Hamas on Israeli soil on October 7th. The strike on the camp comes as the death toll in Gaza climbed to 4,651 and the number of injured to 14,245 since the Hamas attack, according to besieged enclave's health ministry. And away from that, United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken said yesterday that Washington is prepared to retaliate if U.S. troops are targeted in the course of the Israeli-Hamas war, as the possibility of the conflict spreading across the Middle East rises. Blinken, who was speaking during an interview on NBC's Meet the Press, said he expects the war to escalate through involvement by proxies of Iran, adding that the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden is prepared to respond if American personnel become the target of any such hostilities. We are taking steps to make sure that we can effectively defend our people and respond decisively if we need to, Blinken said, noting that additional military assets had been deployed to the Middle East, including 2 aircraft carrier battle groups. The U.S. diplomat also said Israel does not want to roll the Gaza Strip after the war with Hamas draws to a close, according to his discussions with Israeli officials. And elsewhere in Africa, Zimbabwe has been struggling to contain the spread of cholera outbreak, with the government announcing measures amidst fears of a repeat of its 2008 outbreak that sparked a national emergency. Cholera cases span all 10 of Zimbabwe's provinces, with the most alarming spikes in the southeastern provinces of Masvingo and Manicaland, the epicenter of crisis. Cholera outbreak has killed more than 1,000 people and infected 5,000 since February, according to the government estimates. To curb the spread, the government has imposed restrictions in vulnerable areas, limiting funerals to 50 people and forbidding attendees from shaking hands or serving food at the gatherings. Authorities are also discouraging people from frequenting open-air markets, unlicensed vendors, or outdoor church camps where sanitation is scarce. And then speaking matters climate, King Charles gets the green light to speak at COP28 Dubai Summit. Now, the King will travel to the Middle East next month to make the first major climate change speech of his reign. It comes a year after Charles was blocked by Downing Street from attending the COP27 summit in Egypt. At the time, palace officials tried to play down any suggestions of a rift with the Prime Minister, Liz Truss, who felt it was not the right occasion for Charles to attend so soon after his accession. The sovereign held a reception at Buckingham Palace for leading lights in the field instead, but it was well known that he was disappointed by the decision. However, Rishi Sunak has provisionally sanctioned the monarch to attend COP28, the UN Climate Change Conference in Dubai, at the end of next month, the Evening Standard reported. That is it for what is happening across the world and also in terms of climate news.
Thank you so much, Chantal, for that report. And now we cross over to the newspapers and see which stories have graced the front pages.
Well, speaking of the stories that are making headlines at the front pages of our local dailies in Uganda, we have the New Vision highlighting government introduces new assessment at primary level, the learners to get vocational certificate at P6. Read more about that in the New Vision today. The CID probes 37 billion Ugandan shillings vehicle inspection deal. Read more about it in the New Vision as well. Again, UPDF gunship strike another ADF camp in DR Congo. As in the health perspective, are ultrasound scans safe for your baby? Read more about that in the New Vision today. Now, in regards to agriculture, Pastor Kayanja gets 3 awards for Karamoja food security. Read about the same. As in the Middle East, casualties on Israel-Lebanon border as army exchanges fire with Hezbollah. Now, also, there's a pictorial showing Thanksgiving. Bishop Ruwadira says, "I'm ready for retirement." New Vision is giving you more details of the same. Now, let's also focus on the Daily Monitor, as the Daily Monitor highlights fight erupts over key global summit preps. Read more about that fight, as how man lured and killed 6-year-old pupil. It's a very sensitive one. Then in the healthy living, working out exercises to gain a perfect backside. Read about the same in the Daily Monitor. Then investment minister warns Chinese investors into the country. There is a pictorial of Evelyn Anite in there. As in the regional news, locals question freehold titles on Milo land, as also local governments want recruitment ban lifted. Then there is also another interesting report, why your child may struggle to read and write. And well, that is it for our local dailies this particular morning. Later on, we shall be looking at other other headlines across the East African region.
Well, thank you, Sonko. And since inspiring you and entertaining you is part of our mandate, we are going to give you the inspiration song for this morning. And it is from Alan Walker and Toreen. The song is Hello World. discussions like we always do it here on Good Morning Uganda. We do this every morning from Monday to Friday, 6:30 to 9 a.m. So never ever miss Good Morning Uganda. And if you cannot watch us live on UBC, you can actually stream on YouTube so that you don't miss anything. And if there is any episode that you missed, you can catch it on YouTube. Good morning, Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you, and hoping you're fine.
I am great.
The weekend was very, very good because I had a time to be in the presence of the Lord.
Oh.
Yes. At Life Church Namasuba, my church, and it felt so good being in the presence of the Lord, and of course meeting brothers and sisters in Christ and sharing a lot. But one thing I've noticed is we've gone so much into politics that those days you'd meet and talk about the rain and talk about children and talk about this, but this time round, every time you meet people, the first thing, if it's not the hard economic times,
it's politics.
It's politics. If I'm parliament, I'm like, well, what happened to that conversation?
But you see, politics shapes the lives that we have as Ugandans. And actually, I like that the church is very vocal about the politics of the country, because if the church is quiet, then politicians, you've seen what has been happening in parliament, people acting rowdy, acting like little rascals. The church helps us to, remember where we come from.
Not forgetting the politics of the church itself. When you look at what is happening at Namirembe Cathedral, where we even have to set up an entire committee, then probe committee, these days getting a bishop has also become something else,
I understand. Well, Jerome Paul, it is a chilly morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
Was brought to you by MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
My name is Atube Richard, a member of a group called Kanyope, located in Bungatira sub-county. This group started in 2008, but the Prelnol project started supporting us in 2009. The project has offered us training on farming, and the training we got has helped us immensely. We used to farm in a traditional way, planting a variety of crops. But when the team from Prelnor approached us, they asked us to choose particular seeds to grow which can yield very well in our area. We chose groundnuts and rice, which we are growing. With this kind of farming, the project also taught us how to sell as a group after finding a market. The support from the project has been so good to us.
So, you are ready to invest in Airtel's initial public offering? Good choice. I'm going to show you how to do it straight from your phone. First, you're going to want to make sure you have a Securities Central Depository SCD account. Dial *185*85# from your Airtel number. Choose Airtel IPO purchase from the available options. Enter your valid national identification number when prompted. Before you purchase, there are a few things you need to know. The minimum purchase is 2,500 shares. The share price is 100 Uganda shillings. Select the number of shares you wish to purchase. Choose your relevant broker for the purchase. Enter your Airtel Money PIN to confirm the transaction. Congratulations! You receive a confirmation message of your successful purchase.
In Bushenyi district, we run a number of programs ranging from service delivery to wealth creation, we have the presidential initiative on wealth creation, a MYOGA program, where we have 34 circles that have been given funds for the last 2 years, of which each circle received 33 million and only 2 managed to receive 50 million each. These funds have enabled the different categories of our population to engage into business-related activities, and we can see their incomes getting better. Some of them are into tailoring, others into mechanics, into carpentry, hairdressing, or mention it. And so far, they are running their enterprises smoothly.
It is always beautiful when you join us for the real hour. Time check is 3 minutes past 7 o'clock this morning. Welcome back, and if you're just joining us still, welcome back. This is Good Morning Uganda, and I am Olive Monica Najuma. Now today we are going to speak about matters food security. Yes, even food has something like security attached to it, and we will be having this discussion with Joshua Aijuka, the head of programs Pelum Uganda. We will talk about how we can integrate environmental aspects and of course social aspects into food security. But I will not sound as an expert on this because I have the expert with me here. Good morning, Joshua.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure being here.
Now, integrating food social and environmental aspects into the agroecology. This already sounds very confusing, but first of all, I'd like for you to tell us about Pelum Uganda and what you do.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers. It's a pleasure being here. My name is Joshua Aijuka. I work as the head of programs for Pelum Uganda. And Pelum is participatory ecological land use management. We are a network of organizations that work directly to improve the lives of smallholder farmers, the lives of rural communities through ecological land use management. So our work revolves around empowering smallholder farming communities to better manage their environment, and thus ensuring sustainability of their agriculture, and thus guaranteeing their food security, income security, and the sovereignty of their resources. Thank you.
Okay. Now, speaking about accelerating just, inclusive, and resilient food systems through agroecology, what exactly do we mean?
Thank you very much. One of the things we are faced with, actually globally, not even nationally, is that the agriculture sector is faced by a number of issues at the same time. On the one side, we are seeing low productivity, yet the population is increasing. On the other side, we are seeing our environment heavily being degraded, and largely through agriculture. But also, we are faced with a much bigger crisis, which is climate change. So now the question is, how then do we ensure that we have continued sustainable cultural development? And that is how we think the term of agroecology comes about. Because agroecology, we're looking at how do we apply social and ecological principles in designing and managing our food and agriculture system. Now, a food system is a bit broader, because we're looking at the different practitioners, looking at the farmers, looking at the policymakers, looking at the traders in the business, looking at the consumers and the relationships therein. So the issue of having a just food system is looking at how do we ensure there is equity. Most of us, we come from a farming background. and also we have relatives or at least anyone, somehow you know someone who is in farming. And you know for a fact that the highest number of people living under poverty are actually in farming. Yet on the other hand, agriculture is actually a very lucrative business for some players in the value chain.
Yes.
And so it means that there are inequalities within the food system. So ensuring equity or a just and inclusive system, it means that we ensure that everyone involved in the agriculture sector benefits equally, but also ensuring that there is an element of that responsibility in terms of how do we take care of the environment. Should agricultural production come at the expense of, for example, loss of biodiversity, loss of, the pollution that we see, and all these kinds of challenges we are faced with. For example, we are seeing a very high increase in cancer cases. And the recent article by the New Vision actually was pointing to the fact that what we eat is linked to the cancers that we are seeing that are increasing.
That is true.
Yeah.
Wow. And of course, we've had this conversation before where it's been said, like you said, that we are what we eat.
Yes.
So if there is a doctor known for always saying your colon is dirty, but that is a story for another day because he ties everything to your colon. But honestly speaking, the things that you eat can actually affect your health. Yeah. And this has been proven by, the medics and other professionals. Now, the Agroecology Week of Action is coming along. Would you please share with us what the Agroecology Week of Action is all about and its main objectives?
Thank you so much. Actually, today is day one of the Agroecology Week of Action. And this is the week that all actors that are promoting agroecology in Uganda come together to showcase what agroecology really is. Because there is still a lot of limited appreciation of what agroecology really is. So it is a platform where we share, where we learn, where we showcase best practices in agroecology, but also where we engage in processes that are linked to influencing or informing policy in terms of an enabling environment for scaling up agroecology. But also we provide the platform for agroecology actors, especially the farmers, to market their products. So the agroecology farmers, the agroecology entrepreneurs, and different other actors to basically come together, amplify the need for a transition into agroecology, because we believe that is where the future of Uganda's food system is. And there's a number of events. Today is largely a media event. We really appreciate media so much, and I want to appreciate UBC for the collaboration. But also, so today we'll be having a press conference to further share more about what agroecology really is, what the week of action is entailed, and what we're going to be doing. And tomorrow we have the biggest convening, which is called the National Agroecology Actors Symposium. This is a platform of agroecology actors to come and share and learn and network, but also engage in policy development processes. Like we're already developing a national agroecology strategy, so this platform is very important for us to ensure that we are able to ensure that actors from all over the country are able to engage in this process. Then on Wednesday, we shall be having the Agroecology Market Systems Expo. Now, the Agroecology Market Systems Expo is basically on business and markets. How do we ensure that the farmers that are engaged in agroecological production, the businesses that are developed using agroecological principles, how do we ensure that they are actually viable, thriving, and profitable? So this will be the platform where we will be able to showcase. We will be organizing business clinics for these agroecological businesses. We'll also be having dialogues with the relevant institutions, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Agriculture, Investment Authority, and financial institutions on seeing how do we create an enabling environment for agroecological enterprises to thrive. Because that way is how we're going to get the safe food, like you're saying. How do we ensure that the farmers who are producing healthy food actually get rewarded for that? Otherwise, we end up eating the cancerous products on the market. Then on Thursday and Friday will be more like the climax of it all. We'll be having the the annual Indigenous Food and Seed Fair. Now, this is the time we celebrate our indigenous food. Some of them, I'm sure you even wonder, where did this go? Some of them are being lost because of our choices. You know, everything that goes on the farm is influenced by everything that is on the plate. It's not the other way around. The more people demand for kalo, the more farmers will produce kalo. I don't know if you know kalo.
Yes. I know kalo.
Yes.
It comes from, is it millet or sorghum?
Millet, but some of course with sorghum, depending on where you come from. Yeah, so we have, as Uganda, we are blessed. When they say Uganda is gifted by nature, part of that is actually looking at our food. You know, but we are losing a lot of that. We are seeing more and more of us consuming less and less. Almost every day, everyone's plate, you find rice, you find posho, and maybe those who are lucky, matoke. What happened to the hundreds of edible plants and species that are out there? So this is a platform where we're able to show the country that we have so much. We shouldn't be in a crisis because maize maybe has gone down or is scarce. We shouldn't be in a crisis because of rice when we have hundreds of varieties of crops, of different species of livestock.
We are literally a food basket.
Exactly. But also the question is, how do we take advantage of this food basket? If you go to countries like Ethiopia, for example, you will not live without testing their indigenous food. You simply cannot. You'll have to test their coffee, you know. How are we taking advantage of that? That is a strategic and political decision that we have to take. So this platform is for us to actually show to the world that no, we are very blessed. We are gifted with so many, and we need to do so much in terms of how do we create an enabling environment for all these products to be able to be consumed by the end person. Yeah.
Okay. You did mention something about how do we ensure that farmers produce safe food. Now, I know that we are here to talk about the Agroecology Week, but briefly, for someone watching and probably they won't make it to the event, can you tell us just briefly how farmers can actually produce safe food?
Thank you very much. For farmers to produce safe food, the most important thing, of course, is the soil. How are you managing the soil that you're going to produce? Now, I know because of many challenges, we tend, and many farmers, I'm also a farmer, but many farmers tend to using synthetic agrochemicals. You know, they are easy to get and apply. But then they have an effect on the soil. And when this happens, you end up in a dependency complex, you know, because you find yourself, once the soil is used to these synthetic fertilizers, then you'll not produce without them. And that means that you're going to continue, even when you have to pay fees for your children, you have to continue buying these inputs, you know. So looking at agroecological biofertilizers is a very good thing. Using composting, trying to see that the residues on the farm are actually converted into fertilizer or soil amendment products. But also the issue of seed. What seed are you growing? In many cases, one of the biggest problems we have is that farmers are using seed that is not of good quality. And by seed that is not of good quality doesn't mean that it's only seed that is the improved seed that is of good quality. Farmers can also manage good quality seed. Actually, we're having a session on farmer managed seed system. And the national seed policy actually provides for the development of the informal seed policy sector, which means that the farmers who are empowered can be trained in terms to better manage their seed, to ensure that every now and then, every season, there is continued supply of good quality seed. Then the other issue would be on weed management. How do you manage the weed? Because that's where the problem is, where we end up using herbicides. And some of these herbicides actually have some carcinogenic elements, you know. And they've
What is that in layman's language?
They are believed to have some components that cause cancer, so to speak. So, and actually some of these are actually banned in other countries. You know, you find that some of these pesticides, some of these herbicides, they are banned, for example, in European Union. But then they are being...
They find themselves on the market here.
Yes, because our regulatory capacity is limited. So most of these are found, you find them on the market, but the worst case scenario is they are even, besides being very dangerous, they are wrongly applied. You've seen scenarios where farmers are applying even some of these fungicides on shelves tomatoes, you find the tomatoes on the shelf, and the farmers, the traders are still applying, you know, and this is what we end up eating in terms of salads and all these kinds of things.
That's
so
true.
we need, the other thing is also, to produce safe food, you need the technical capacity. So the training, it means that the extension system has to be strengthened with new knowledge of alternatives. But most importantly, we must have a mechanism of guaranteeing. If you say it's organic or agroecological, what shows? So we are using, for issues of certification and participatory guarantee systems are one of the approaches we are using to ensure that we can guarantee to the consumer that what you're consuming is actually healthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we would like for you to share your views on how we can integrate environmental aspects into agriculture. We are speaking matters food security, and if you are a farmer out there or someone that is interested in farming, I believe that this conversation that is going to, you know, benefit you. And of course, we have the Agroecology Week of Action coming up. It has started today, and you can be a part of this. They have so many activities coming up, and I would like for Mr. Aijuka to share some of the activities that you have prepared, activities and events that are going to take place during this week.
Thank you very much. Maybe just to elaborate further, for example, in the National Agroecology Actors Symposium, we are going to have one high-level policy debate, and this is basically on expounding on what we're talking about today, on how do we accelerate inclusive and just food systems. And we're going to be joined by academia, policymakers. We're going to be joined by the international community, because Uganda is a member of the International Agroecology Coalition. And that means that we are part of a larger agroecology movement. So we're going to have a debate on how do we do this? How does our practices, how do our policies, how does you know, the demands from the consumers, how do they drive the food systems transformation? And then also we're going to be having more detailed side events. We're having one on seeds, like I told you, on farm managed seed systems. We're going to have one on market development. We are going to have another on policies, and another one on issues of climate change, to further discuss and expound on how these issues, what are the existing best practices, what do the policies say, what needs to be improved to see how we move forward. And then, of course, the Agroecology Market Systems Expo is largely going to be focusing on how do we facilitate networking and synergies among the different actors, but also what kind of an enabling environment is required. Because for any business to thrive, there is need for a thriving, a supportive environment. And this needs to be well understood. We need to understand what role do these agroecological entrepreneurs play, in terms, for example, in terms of rural socio-economic transformation, in terms of addressing youth unemployment, in terms of contributing to, you know, to domestic revenue and the like. And as such, how then can they be supported through existing programs like the Agriculture Credit Facility and so on. So this would be a very good platform for us. Then finally, it will be an exhibition and showcasing. And we were expecting the presence of course, key ministries, including the Ministry of Agriculture, and also to be blessed by the presence of our cabinet minister and the state minister. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. Now you mentioned that one of the key points here is networking. So how can the public and of course agroecology actors get involved in the events that are happening this week?
Yes, thank you very much. The events are going to be held at Hotel Africana for this whole period. This is a very strategic space where, and these events will be open to the public, especially the Agroecology Market Systems Expo on Wednesday, and then the annual Indigenous Food and Seed Fair on Thursday and Friday. So we encourage the public to come and participate, to learn, to support the farmers that are producing healthy products, but also to have that connection. But also these events are going to be streamed live on various social media platforms. Will be, of course, on Zoom, there will be on Twitter Space, there will be LinkedIn and the like. So we would like to encourage the public to follow the Pelham Uganda social media pages, platforms, and the pages, and to be able to really plug in and participate. And yeah, and there will be a lot to learn. I can assure you there will be a lot to learn, and a lot more will be coming. So I would really wish that we participate as the public.
All right. We would like for you to be a part of this conversation, and we are asking you to share your views on how we can integrate social and environmental aspects into agriculture. Now, like the gentleman said in the beginning, agriculture is a minefield when it comes to, Uganda. It is the biggest sector, and we are a country that is mostly dependent on agriculture. The president, in most of his addresses, is always talking about agriculture, because this is where we get sustenance as Ugandans the most. So we are speaking matters food security, and if you're someone that is aspiring to be a farmer or who is a farmer, there is the Agroecology Week, and this is something that could benefit you, because like the gentleman said, there is a lot to learn. There are networking opportunities, and there are trainings that are going to happen. He said it's going to be at Hotel Africana, and he's of course still sharing more, on agroecology. So I'd like for you to join this conversation. You can reach us, and you can reach us through WhatsApp number 0709602592, and the hashtag on the X app is UBCGMU. So send in your opinions, send in your questions. Mr. Aijuka is here to answer those, so that if this is something that will work for you. And if you have been having burning questions regarding farming, this is the time for you to have this conversation. So your feedback will really be helpful. Now, you have shared about the activities that are going to take place during the Agroecology Week, and but we need to know, this is the second one of its kind, right?
Yes, this is the second week of action, but for these other events, they've been happening for quite a long period. No,
I mean the Agroecology Week, you had the first one in 2022?
Yes.
And this is the second of its kind. So I would like to know some of the success stories so far.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, this is the second Agroecology Week of action. But the events therein, some of them have been running for quite a period. For example, the Indigenous Food Fair has been running for over 10 years. The National Agroecology Actors Symposium this is going to be the 5th year running. And over time, we've got a lot of achievements. And I'll try to begin with the work on indigenous foods, Indigenous Food Fair. This process really has informed a number of policies. To begin with the National Seed Policy, which you see is now inclusive. I think it's the most inclusive seed policy in the region, which is more pluralistic in nature. It looks at both the formal and the informal sector. And the informal sector is largely to support the production of such seeds, such as the indigenous seeds. But also we worked very closely with the ministry to develop, still in draft, unfortunately for a very long time, but the genetic resources for food and agriculture policy. Previously it was called the Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture, but then it was widened to also include the livestock and fungi and all that. So policy development process has been very key, but also increased utilization and consumption of these indigenous foods. From the time we started, like I told you, we have over 70 member organizations. And these members work with over 3 million smallholder farmers all over the country. Actually, they reach 120 districts. And we've seen that over the last 10 years, we've seen increased production of these indigenous foods. And when that happens, it means that we have increased agrobiodiversity. When you have increased agrobiodiversity, it means that you have better nutrition in household, but also you have better resilience of the farm to issues like climate change and the like. So these are some of the successes we've seen. And specifically for agroecology, like I said, in the first symposium that was held in 2019, the key recommendation was that we need to develop a strategy or a policy framework to guide the development of the agroecology in the country. And as such, together with the Ministry of Agriculture, we launched the National Agroecology Actors Platform, which is like a space for the agroecology actors in the region, in the country, but also it has regional actors platforms, actually 5 of them in different regions, western, northern, central, and the like. But also we started on the process of developing the national agroecology strategy. As we speak, we already have a draft, and this is going to be a consultative process. We've also seen more and more actors embracing agroecology, and that is very important. We are seeing more actors coming on board and taking up agroecology. We're having academic institutions offering agroecology at a PhD level, master's level, undergraduate level. We are seeing schools reintegrating aspects of agroecology, especially primary schools, even including school gardens, teaching them agroecological principles, working with our member organizations.
So basically taking it back to the grassroots.
Exactly, and changing the narrative where agroecology was regarded as a punishment, as something that is for those that don't have anything else to do, but bringing it as actually an opportunity to really skill the youth, to see that they can actually earn a livelihood through agroecology, through farming, and also to know that there are better ways of doing the farming. It doesn't have to be done the way it used to be done 20, 30, 50 years ago.
And now, when you mentioned that the way it used to be done 20, 30, 50 years ago, there has been talk, I don't know if you address that too, about climate change and how the seasons have changed, whereby the rainy seasons that we used to know have now changed. How are you addressing that, and how are you helping farmers to now understand that seasons have changed and they need to make some changes in their farming as well?
Yeah, thank you very much. Exactly, that is one of the biggest challenges actually farmers are facing right now. Seasons have really changed. Climate change is real, it's no longer a myth. Climate change is real, it is here with us, and we must take action. And like they always say, that we must think globally, but we must act locally. So it means that this action has to actually, if we are to see that we actually build resilient communities, if we are to see that our agriculture is adaptable to the changing climate, then we must ensure that we have actions that actually speak that are implemented by the smallholder farmers. So as Pelham Uganda, we've really been promoting a lot of interventions in promoting climate change resilience, but also the mitigation co-benefits therein. And we developed a model called the Climate Resilient Agroecosystems Model. And this model has really helped farmers in terms of holistically planning and implementing interventions related to climate change. Because climate change, one, for you to be able to respond is you must know which kinds of, let me call them hazards and impacts that you're faced with, the climate change impacts. And because of that, when you break them down, for example, if the issue is erratic rains, or if it is prolonged droughts, or if it is a high prevalence of pests and diseases, or if it is, any of those things.
Yes.
The question is, once we've been able to establish those and how they affect you, then you're able now to come up with appropriate interventions. So this process, this tool helps us to work with the communities to do thorough analysis, vulnerability analysis, and come up with actual action plans, and then apply agroecological principles and practices in their farm. And we've seen a lot of improvements in terms of their resilience at some of these effects. Because the effects are there, they are going to continue being there. But how do we then work with the farmers in terms of better managing the environment? We found that as very key. A farmer, for example, that is practicing agroforestry, that is having their soil covered well, that is applying composting and ensuring that the soil has enough water holding capacity, you know, that is integrating different elements on the farm, is more resilient and can easily adapt to climate change than a farmer who is doing monocropping. It's as simple as that. But also including the quality of the seed and all that. Because now the key issue of resilience, actually, the key principle of resilience is diversity. That when you have many, they won't be affected at the same time. If you have beans, maize, livestock, maybe chicken and goats, when there is drought, not all of those are actually affected the same way. You may lose one or two, but you'll have others to buffer you up. But also an integrated system creates a lot of synergies, which makes it more resilient. So that is basically how we are responding to climate change.
We are having a conversation regarding food security, and we are asking you to share your views on how we can integrate social and environmental aspects into agriculture. I'm speaking to a gentleman, that is Mr. Joshua Aijuka, the head of programs Pelham Uganda, and he has shared quite some insights regarding agroecology. And if you have any questions, please keep them coming through, but also you can share your opinions. And I have a question coming in from Joshua from Wakiso. He says, has Pelham engaged Uganda National Bureau of Standards to consider organic standards in our food? But I will join that question with whether or not Pelham Uganda engages in policy advocacy to promote agroecology practices.
Thank you very much. Very good questions, dear viewers. Let me start with the last one. Pelham Uganda actively engages in policy advocacy processes. And as Pelham Uganda, we believe in dialogue. We don't believe in holding placards and, you know, we believe in sitting together with the policy makers, presenting alternative views with evidence, and working together to review and inform policy development processes. So we take keen interest in processes that are being developed, that are being reviewed, but also those that are being implemented, to really identify what are some of the links, what are some of the missing gaps, and as such, work through dialogue, through exposure to best practices, because policymakers are people like us, just in different offices. So once they are exposed, once they are convinced that the policies are in place, I mean that there are practices which are in place and can actually contribute to better development of this economy, then they are willing to take them up. And so we worked very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture when developing, for example, the National Organic Agriculture Policy. We have an organic agriculture policy, and I think we are among the few countries in Africa with such a policy. So together with other actors like the National Organic Agriculture Movement of Uganda, Advocacy Coalition for Sustainable Agriculture, Eastern and Southern Africa Farmers Forum, we really worked very closely and ensured that this policy is passed after very many years in the shelf. But also other policies, like I told you, national seed policy, now we're developing the national agroecology strategy. So the key work of that we do as Pelham Uganda is policy influencing, policy advocacy. We have an entire department focusing on that. In terms of engaging UNBS in having organic agriculture standards, we actually have the National Organic Agriculture Standards. They're in place. We have an organic agriculture certification body called Yogosat, and these the standards actually linked, and basically they aligned to the East African organic agriculture standards, you know, and that's why you have Uganda has among the third in probably globally or in Africa in terms of the number of farmers producing organic products, the number of farms that are organic. So that shows you that there's a lot going on, and there are so many opportunities for organic agriculture. And the key issue now here is how then, now that we have these policies in place, how do we strengthen implementation?
That's true.
Yeah, right from financing, are these policies having some of these elements? Are they having votes already in our national budget allocation?
Are they having votes in the national budget allocation?
That's what we are now working on, closely with the Ministry of Agriculture, engaging the Ministry of Finance, to see that some of these, when they are developing their sectoral budgets, to ensure that some of these policies that they have worked hard to develop are actually allocated. And I can assure you that this will be the case. So progressively, we are seeing that yeah, we are making very good strides. But also still we keep engaging and encouraging and requesting government to see to it that we have more investment in the agriculture sector. Already, according to the declaration, we were supposed to invest at least 10% of our budget into agriculture sector. But we are still far below that. And we know that there are so many priorities as a country. But if there is a way that we can fasten the transformation of this economy, is by putting money where the majority of the population is, and the majority are in agriculture. So we are always engaging in budget advocacy processes, building a case for agriculture. Why is it key? In addition to many other key sectors, we find it as a very essential sector for us as a country.
Okay, so as we speak, you have had the first week of the agriculture, the first agroecology week that was in 2022, and you've shared some success stories, and now here we are with the second one of its kind. So what are your future goals as Pelham Uganda? What are the long-term goals in advancing agroecology in the country?
Thank you very much. The key goal is ensuring that we have food, actually let me call it sustainable and resilient food system transformation. That is very key for Uganda. Uganda, as a food basket for the region, has a lot of opportunities to tap into from agriculture. So we believe that with the changing climate, with the poverty, the rural poverty, and all the challenges that we have, biodiversity loss and all that, one way of ensuring sustainability of agriculture and food system is through agroecology. We want to see agroecology integrated in policies. We want to see agroecology practices and principles implemented and scaled up in different parts. We want to see more investment in research for innovations and best practices that are based on agroecological principles. We want to see that the productivity of agriculture sector actually increases. We want to see lives of the people in terms of the income, the people who are dependent on agriculture, not just the farmers, but also the people in the value chains are actually reaping out of this sector in a more sustainable and socially just way.
Okay.
So those are some of the goals.
So we've been having a conversation regarding food security, and we have been speaking to Mr. Joshua Aijuka, the head of programs at Pelham Uganda. And of course, there is the Agroecology Week that is ongoing, and it is starting today. And the theme for this year's Agroecology Week is accelerating just, inclusive and resilient food systems through agroecology. Now, we would like to continue this conversation, but time is against us. Though someone is asking how many actual farmers will attend an activity organized at Hotel Africana, or it's always the usual elites discussing agriculture, theoretically in hotel environment. We are closing, so Mr. Joshua, you have 30 seconds to answer that question.
Thank you very much, dear viewer. Yes, like I told you, Pelham is a network. We have 74 member organizations spread in 120 districts. And all these members are going to have representatives, farmer representatives, come and join us for this event. But also we had pre-events, regional and local agroecology actors, symposiums, which were able to gather views from a wider range of farmers and local community representatives, which are now going to be integrated at a higher level policy space. So it doesn't mean that everyone has to be there, but I can
Okay.
assure you they are represented.
They are going to be
Thank you.
represented. Well, thank you so much. And like Mr. Joshua Aijuka said, the event starts today and it is at Hotel Africana. It goes on from today to Friday. So make sure that you attend it, especially if you're interested in farming or if you are curious about farming or if you are a farmer, because we need to have better and safe food systems in our nation, because we are what we eat, like Joshua put it, and I agree with that message. You are what you put inside your body. Well, this is still Good Morning Uganda. Thank you so much for keeping it UBC Television, the national broadcaster. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
My name is Atube Richard, a member of a group called Kanyope, located in Bungatira sub-county. This group started in 2008, but the Prel Nol project started supporting us in 2009. The project has offered us training on farming, and the training we got has helped us immensely. We used to farm in a traditional way, planting a variety of crops. But when the team from Prelnor approached us, they asked us to choose particular seeds to grow which can yield very well in our area. We chose groundnuts and rice, which we are growing. With this kind of farming, the project also taught us how to sell as a group after finding a market. The support from the project has been so good to us.
So, you are ready to invest in Airtel's initial public offering? Good choice. I'm going to show you how to do it straight from your phone. First, you're going to want to make sure you have a Securities Central Depository SCD account. Dial *185*85# from your Airtel number. Choose Airtel IPO purchase from the available options. Enter your valid national identification number when prompted. Before you purchase, there are a few things you need to know. The minimum purchase is 2,500 shares. The share price is 100 Uganda shillings. Select the number of shares you wish to purchase. Choose your relevant broker for the purchase. Enter your Airtel Money PIN to confirm the transaction. Congratulations! You will receive a confirmation message of your successful purchase.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Hello and good morning again. Thank you very much for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda this particular hour of the Monday morning. It is called, but the business world, like I normally say, never rests, or it's not supposed to be in bed at this particular time, because the money is supposed to be made if you look at the entire space of business. But speaking of business, this morning a very fast business update takes us at the situation to do with agribusiness in this country. Now, the Prime Minister of Uganda, that is Right Honorable Robina Nabanja, was in Bukomansimbi and asked the residents of Bukomansingi and Kalungu districts to resort to agribusiness and push forward to enable them to actually gain more money from agricultural practices in the same. Now, the Prime Minister was addressing leaders from the two districts as she mobilized them for the forthcoming Agricultural Expo, as she believes that if they take charge or take part into this particular expo, they will definitely be gaining lots and lots of benefits from the same. Now, of course, she did explain to farmers that is about the 6 policy proposals of production, multiplication, distribution and certification of seeds and stocking materials, then disease control as well, and irrigation and farmer education, in order to ensure that agribusiness is something that we can look at as a country. Of course, when you as well look at the pillars of the parish development model, commercial agriculture is one of those particular ones that have been greatly prioritized or being targeted by the president in that PDM model. As well, if you're to look at the last 2 financial years, 2022-2023, 2023-2024, which is the current financial year, commercial agriculture is still a key priority by the government to ensure that Ugandans get into the money economy. So that is where the Right Honourable Speaker that's where the Right Honourable Prime Minister of this country was actually laying a lot of emphasis to ensure that the residents in Zimbabwe, residents in Kalungu district, should as well get into active agribusiness, because tell you what, this is where the chances are for anyone who is actively in subsistence agriculture to at least earn from their particular sweat of agriculture. Now, besides that, as we focus on agribusiness, the next report also talks agribusiness, but this time around looking at the dairy sector. Now, Liantonde is set to tax milk dealers to boost local revenue. Of course, when you look at boosting local revenue from the local government perspective, you get to realize that local governments are making different efforts to ensure that this particular financial year sees them raise enough revenues in order to top up to what the government is offering them in the same financial year. Now, the Liantonde district leadership is considering introducing tax on new milk as one as one of the ways of boosting local revenue. Now, besides that, the Liantonde district chairperson, Fred Muhanji, did reveal that the district is still stuck with the challenge of low local revenue, yet there is increasing demand for local services within the local government premises. During the financial year 2022-2023, which came to an end June 30th this year, the district only collected 163 million Ugandan shillings from local revenue out of the projected 190 million. So they were short of 30 million Ugandan shillings. And the intent to make sure that this time around they hit a surplus with their particular target. Now, they are targeting only cattle markets for revenue, which are at times affected by the quarantines imposed in the area following outbreaks of diseases such as foot and mouth disease. So they want to at least try to target those who are actively into cattle business. Now, when you look at a situation, he was quoted saying that if a fee of 100 shillings is introduced on every litre of raw milk, it would be a big boost to the local revenue. So 100 Ugandan shillings will be added as tax for a litre of milk. And of course, the financial year 2023-2024, Liantonde projected to collect at least 210 million. Now, they want to collect 210 million for this current financial year. Last financial year, their projection was on 190 million Ugandan shillings. Though they were short of that particular target, they only achieved 163 million Ugandan shillings of local revenue. Well, will they be able to achieve 210 million Ugandan shillings? For the residents and the viewers of Lyantonde, especially those into cattle keeping as well, this is a new tax that you will definitely have to embrace, and also support the local government in Lyantonde to make sure that this particular target is greatly achieved. As we wait, I'll be definitely giving you more business details coming in from Lyantonde in case of any further developments. Lastly, from our business update this morning, though, we now focus and look at the forex market. As you're heading out into the business world this Monday morning, the 23rd, how is the dollar faring? How is it trading? How are other currencies as well trading? Now, when you look at the US dollar, it did close buying at 3,749.17, while selling was at 3,759.17 as well. And the Great Britain pound was closing at 4,541.74 while buying, and if you're selling, it was at 4,553.86. The euro was buying at 3,964.37 while selling at 3,974.95. The Kenyan shilling, on the other hand, was buying at 25.02 while selling at 25.09. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.49 shillings while selling at 1.50 shillings. The South African rand, on the other hand, was buying at 197.08 shillings while selling at 197.61 Ugandan shillings. And of course, when you go out there in the market, it is time for you to ideally have those at your fingertips, those figures and numbers. Now we revisit our local dailies before we focus on what is making headlines across the East African region. And from our local perspective, we start off with the New Vision. The New Vision today is highlighting government introduces new assessment at primary level. The learners are to get vocational certificate right from P6, and the CID probes 37 billion shillings vehicle inspection deal as gunships strike another ADF camp in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, also in the health perspective, are ultrasound scans safe for your child? Read about that in the New Vision. And then Pastor Robert Kayanja gets 3 awards for Karamoja food security. But not only that, though, Bishop Luarida says he is ready for retirement. Now, away from the New Vision, the Daily Monitor, this particular morning, fight erupts over key global summit preps in the country. And then Investment Minister Evelyn Anite warns Chinese investors. How a man lured and killed 6-year-old pupil. There's a report of that. Now, healthy living, working out. They give you exercises that you need to do to gain a perfect backside. Then you can as well read about UPDF enlisting locals in fight against ADF rebels. Then in the regional news, locals question freehold titles on Milo land as local governments want recruitment ban lifted. Then there is a report which says why your child may struggle to read and write. Now let's cross the border to Kenya. The Daily Nation highlights Kenya's phone theft syndicate as Crime Mondays come with long queues at Safaricom Airtel shops as victims replace SIM cards. Nairobi is one of the serious cities when it comes to phone theft, by the way. So for those traveling, you should definitely be very cautious about it. Now, Ruto now plays down prediction of the El Nino rains in Kenya as Gachagua, that is the deputy president in Kenya, says we are all equal shareholders, he reveals. Lastly, the Citizen in Tanzania. Inside Tanzania's deal with DP World. Read about that as the government and Dubai's DP World yesterday officially signed a 30-year concession agreement in Dodoma that will see the latter invest over $250 million in upgrading operations at the Dar es Salaam port. Then also, how Zanzibar revenue rose by 86% in 3 years. Now, there's an interesting report about resource extraction, which produces half of all carbon emissions in Tanzania. Well, that is it for the press review this morning, as well as the GMU business update. Now it's time for us to check out the traffic updates with Chantal Oliver Kanmenda.
Thank you so much, Jerome Paul, for the updates. Well, with me is the traffic updates, and I'm right now standing at the Waise roundabout. If you are coming from areas of Waise,